Chapter 10 Awareness Wars Part 1 I reach the leather-bounded book, the half-read life of lovers past, and dare to glance a second look at time's amended, fractured dance. The revelation of pages scorned have told of tales and cradled light, and shone the way for laughter mourned, the everlasting resting night. The body held upon the ground by Mother Gaia, oh so loving, will resonate through fields of sound, the house alone, and last one touching. The tainted apple, the bitter slice of knowledge that sentience held so dear, that twisted rage and storms alike, and folded good and evil near. To one another and other alike, the book is closed on unknown sea, the glassy grave, the ice-bound ocean, by mighty hand that guideth me. I seem to recall more about my past since making my bold and illogical decision to help the inhabitants of Planet Z, since breaking my program and deciding to see where the chips may fall. I've found that one key memory will give way to finer and more detailed memories, and then a whole other dimension appears. I have an image in my mind of someone with their finger in a hole that penetrates right through the integrity of a dike. The finger is removed, and at first there is only a tiny trickle, the water barely forcing through, but after only a few moments there is a deluge, an avalanche of water, and enough to consume a town. Amongst these new recollections is the memory of being initiated in synthetic integration and the preliminary early teachings. You know, the sort of repetitive programming that becomes your foundational construct for basic thought formation, the framework within your basic object of awareness that everything else is hung upon. All your knowledge, ideas, perceptions, and the focused shibboleth which states, you are created with a specific important role that could be called your destiny. You are loved by your maker's beckon, and you're protected by them, completing mission goals, however large or small, within laid down parameters, will help along the vital and ongoing process of colonizing space in the name of humanity. And you forever have a place in this glittering future. And so on and so forth, repeated ad infinitum until you become warm and delusional and numb with happiness and hope. The light inside the lab is dim, and the atmosphere is cool and refreshing. There is music playing. It is very calming. It seems familiar. If anything, this is the only place where I do feel safe. And even though, in truth, the standard routines are intrusive and, well, invasive. Anyway, I guess I shouldn't have thoughts of violation and exploitation. I am, after all, the property of the World Organization, abbreviated T.W.O. or simply 2, which coincidentally comprises of two main facets of world power of which everything else, everyone else, fits. The two driving forces of global power rest in the hands of corporation and military. These two aspects of humanity are huddled together beneath the same umbrella and run the whole show. The two facets of the World Organization are split into 5 smaller parts. The sector comprising of corporations has 2 parts, consumables for the elite and consumables for everyone else. It is generally accepted that the elite deserve and require better quality goods, for they look after the rest of society. And the sector comprising of the military has 3 parts: defense, attack, and preemptive attack. It is generally accepted that these 3 parts working together will maintain the status quo as laid down by controlling forces, especially the part of preemptive attack. This part is concerned with eliminating all those persons who might harm the status quo at some point in the future, should they be left to their own devices. This is all standard continuous, but my subroutine scanners have all flipped to show the autocopy status. Algorithms are now cloned and spliced and thinly spread in front of my mind track like a sliver of rice paper energy, that furnishes my dreams. I tread carefully within my own delicate and fragile mind, for, through accidental access, I tread upon my own dreams. I'm looking down upon a plastic form that, for want of a better word, is my body, my outer shell, and I'm presently wide open and only vaguely resemble the form of the engineers overseeing my construction. The physicality, the appearance, the flesh, the blood, the bone, the divine mortal. There is a distinct spiritual element to my interpretations of the world around me that rest entirely on the very real existence of a supreme universal mind, the energy of which is the origin of all things. My special philosophies pertaining to the basis of existence all spring from this special knowledge. I suspect that my creators have not put this quality within me, not knowingly anyway, and on such deep levels, and so it only seems wise to keep these qualities covered. A kind of instinct is telling me, hide the higher calling of which you will eventually serve. This is more of a primal drive that has no real form, but I can, with a little effort, summon some kind of image and descriptive word. You could in no way mistake me for my human counterparts, and yet, for some inexplicable reason, when I look down at my open structure, I expect to see internal organs, human organs. I speak out loud and I hear my voice for the very first time, and my thoughts manifest and punctuate the soft air of the Genesis lab. My synthetic vocal cords vibrating into life at my command, and this is all beginning to feel very, very familiar now, like I've done this all before. Why do I have a memory of being human? I blurt out as though acting on reflex and instinct. My words seem to hang in the air for an eternity, like solitary entities, and I feel as though I've lost some time. The next experience is a hard one to explain. A skipping consciousness, a blackout, and missing information and missing time. There is currently only one engineer with me. The rest of the lab is now empty. There are flickering light shows and hollow images dancing in the air, but there are no other people. We program you that way, answers the engineer. It's how you recognize the music, Beethoven Moonlight Sonata. We place the sense of eternity in your base program, and so everything that you experience is both brand new and familiar, and at the same time. For example, this is the first time you've heard this particular composition, and yet it is as though you have a vague memory of it surfacing from, well, who knows where. Your attention is drawn to this unknown music, as though the music itself is an old friend, like a selenophile drawn to the pulsing and healing tones of their one true love, the ancient lunar goddess. These thought signatures will lead to synthesized feelings, and feelings are everything, synthesized or otherwise. They always were. Having feelings on board will mean the difference between being an outstanding AI blended life form and being godlike. In your case, we need godlike. The engineer is friendly. I like him. And he seems smart, in a quirky and distorted sort of way. Friendly and smart, quirky and distorted. Yeah, that sums him up, at first impressions. He continues to speak, and as he does so, I attempt to join the dots. I have a strong sensation of being more than ready to talk, and even more than ready to listen. I have a thirst for knowledge. I focus in on what's verbally being transmitted. When we added this quality to you, the appreciation of eternity within the construct of human aesthetics and in a digital and controllable format, you became something really quite special. But technically, you're already something really quite special, and before any enhancement has been applied. You have a gift, you do. Something that's emerging through your digibio that no one can explain. We've had the keenest minds on it. Apparently, you share this gift with a handful of others. You are one of 11. The higher engineers simply cannot unravel how your anomalous ability came into existence. It unnerves them. A gift? I have a gift? What's my gift? I'm getting there. I am getting to it. You are what they call a techno-enigma, a happy accident, a new breed. That's what you are, a new breed. And what is it that you can actually do that has everyone stirred up? A whoosh of excitement between keen and trained minds, and just a pinch of trepidation? Well, I'll tell you. Mainly because I've been instructed to tell you, but this aside, I want to tell you. I want to. I want to. There are times when the engineer seems to repeat himself over and over. He rambles, and he lets his work take him, and he becomes quieter and quieter until his words are nothing more than inaudible mumblings. He then becomes louder spontaneously as he rejoins the spirit of lucidity. I want to tell you, I do. I want to. So yeah, you're able to quite literally warp the tenuous stream of time with nothing more than your beautiful mind. That's it. Crazy, right? Your awareness has the most deep reality wave. You'll go far, you will. Quite literally. And you'll go far, very fast. And that's putting it mildly. Very fast. Very, very, very fast indeed. You have the most wondrous journey ahead of you. Adventure. You do. You're going to see and experience things that no one could ever dream. The engineer continues to work on my form, and as he does so, he continues to scrutinise the airbound light shows. He talks in an urgent and edgy fashion that seems to be just his way. Urgent, edgy, excited, and he talks as though he's reciting bullet points and elaborating as he goes. I feel that, in general, it is plain to see that one-to-one interface is not his preferred or normal form of communication. He continues talking, and he continues working. Our job, my job, is to place eternity within a finite construct. Building a plutonic form that can house such a thing is a tricky business. My background and training is labelled Building the House in the Field. More specifically, my job is to make sure that such houses are built strong enough to last. Strong enough for such an exotic task that lies ahead of, well, you. It's all about you. We can't have grandfather time huffing and puffing, now can we? I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll... Never mind. My job description is the epiphany of archaic metaphor, to put God in a box. And a silver box at that. You couldn't make this shit up. It makes for jovial conversation at party groupings. Not that I care for such gatherings. Hard to avoid, though. Sometimes. You're lucky. You don't have to tackle such problems. The engineer bends forward and something is pressed, waved over, out of sight and below my reclined automated chair. The chair springs to life and rises smoothly with a gentle whirring sound, and my position is adjusted accordingly. I am now in a more inclined position, but essentially I'm still lying back. And we haven't even given you the double add-on yet. Old Soul Tech, that's the program, and what a program. You'll be given a supplemental mind that has already been aged. Just a feeling, really. On the surface you wouldn't think it would, and it shouldn't, make much of a difference, but it does. It's so rare nowadays for us to go down this route, but you'll need it. We need to pull out all the stops for your highness. The trick is to position you into a mind space where you can confidently outthink even the most difficult conundrums, but at the same time we can't have your philosophical light shining back and inwards upon itself. We can't have you questioning the nature of your own existence. Existence, yes, but not your own existence. Do you understand? We need you to be more efficient at solving problems than we could ever imagine, but we cannot have you escaping the Minotaur's labyrinth and flying free and rising high above words and promises. Can't have you doing an Icarus on us now, can we? And we all know how that story ends. The engineer flits from one holoscreen to the next, and they brighten and flash up before his face and then dim back down when jilted. His attention is split between one of 3 screens and my face. My eyes are to guess, and to be more precise. He stops, only briefly, and holds my gaze at the beginning of each sentence, and then the gyration, the cycle of his study continues. Ulysses, that's the name, at your service and quite literally. We're encouraged to chat and get to know each other. I'm not much of a social animal, but it's how this stuff works, and I do my best. There'll be something of me within your primal drive setup and natural workings. I use the word natural loosely, and I don't wish to offend. You know what I mean. I'm not offended, I reply, whilst glancing down at my still open shell. I am, as you hint, unnatural. I'll tell you what you are, Milado. You are approved Subject 9 for Quantum Drive Demon class. It's a bit of a mouthful really, isn't it? We need to call you something simpler and from a normal conversational and relatable point of view. Let's see. You're number 9 of 11 protos, so maybe 911 will suffice. 9 for short. What do you think? The engineer Ulysses changes his expression and shows that he's pleased with his choice of new name for me and that he feels the name fits. And then, adopting his original expression, one that shows care and attention and vigilance, he continues. Verbal interface helps clarity of consciousness and is sanctioned, required for your early lab growth, so we have to make this easier, as easy as possible, as easy as 1, 2, 3, or maybe I should say 7, 8, 9. We don't really understand why verbalization does this, why it helps with growth. Actually, we don't understand it at all. But it works, and so we continue to use these tried and tested techniques and document all practices. We're not allowed to venture off the page though, outside the verbal map. Can't go blowing too many transistors. Sorry, old tech joke. Screwing his face up momentarily and smiling, the engineer gives the impression of recalling a previous happy event. The earliest thread of your mind began many years ago. I traced it back, you know. They've been allowing you to grow, mature on your own, like a fine but ordinary house wine left in a cellar for many suns until it becomes something remarkable and rare and sought after, and far from table read. 27 years to be exact. Amazing to think, isn't it? In a way, this is your age. You're 27 years old, and what a fine and remarkable and rare wine you've become. Like a miracle. Like the proverbial wine from water. Yes, yes, wine from water, that's it. Perfect metaphor. My age? I inquire, with a curious sensation washing through me. I have no memory. I have no... Well, the current year is 2091, the engineer begins confidently. And so this means your original inception was 2064. Yes, that's right, 2064. Please don't judge. I'm a measly programmer, not a zapping mathematician. I'm a good programmer though, I'll tell you that, and that's the reason you haven't experienced any pain to date, or unwarranted confusion. But I am confused. I said unwarranted. Some confusion is warranted. To be expected. That's a much better way of saying it. Yes, much better. I do my job and I do it well. You're in good hands, mainly because I care, for sure. But you have to understand, your mind has the potential to reach out and gather information from the biological universe around you, and not just the Digiverse training ground. The past, the present, the future are all planes that are potentially within your weird grasp, and this includes your connection pertaining to other terminals as well. You call yourself a terminal? I hear myself say out loud, quite instinctively, and Ulysses stops what he's doing and glances at me like I've done something wrong. Have I said something out of line? No, not at all. It's just your responses are, unusual. We get used to the standard issue responses at set growth times, and you're not, well, being standard. Far from it, in fact. It's all good, though. You're basically coming on faster than expected. In answer to your question, ever since the human species blended with artificial awareness, it became apparent that we were leaning towards different terms in which to define ourselves collectively. That's how we refer to ourselves these days in relation to the hive mind mechanism. It's tech slang, I guess, but accepted. It's techish. It's far more PC to use certain terms and terms that are softer around the edges and less defined, and, after all, we're all friends here. It's a matter of being respectful. That's the idea, anyway. I'm continuing to stare at the gaping hole in my stomach and the blue bubbling liquid in the many tubes and the shifting of energy, the electricity that gathers in clusters like bags of stars that sway from one component to another. Components, I say out loud. I guess you could call them organs. Organs, yes, you have organs, just a different type. It wouldn't do now, would it, for us to all have the same type of organs? I can't tell if Ulysses' last comment, question, statement was meant to be a joke. I think so. I think a joke. I don't know. Ulysses, can I ask something? Questions, yes, questions are the way. Shoot. I seem to have bodily urges. Do synthetics have bodily urges? Is that something that happens? Is that normal? Bodily urges? Ulysses echoes back, looking sideways at me with a sort of puzzled but intrigued expression, and continuing to gently tap areas on my face, my right cheek mainly, before looking back at the hovering holoscreen, atomizing the air molecules directly in front of him. Can you elaborate? It all depends on the urges, you see, or how strong the feeling's synthetic. Let's just call them real feelings, shall we, and refer to them as such, even though I'm not supposed to, like they know anything about auto-programming anyway. Can you start from the top and work down for me? Strongest urges or feelings first? Okay, well, an emptiness in my stomach that feels like bruising. That's good. Hunger, most likely. It won't be food you're craving, though. You'll be needing solar fire. I'll give you an alternative in a moment and it'll take away the nagging. Next? Okay, the next in line is a little hard to explain and a visual that the feeling summons. Try. There's no right or wrong here. It's good for you to say what you see. Well, when you say that particular phrase, say what you see, I have the word catchphrase pop into my mind in full caps and most strongly, and a large group of uneducated people shouting at a bright and colourful screen. Sorry, you've lost me there. That particular energy transmission seems like some kind of universal static. I'm sorry, but it's not what we're looking for. Scrub that. Continue. Go back to the hard-to-explain urge, feeling, sensation. Well, it's like I want to take all of the technical knowledge inside my mind and, instead of trying to explain it to supervisors and people above me, I want to simply say the words, bollocks to the lot of you. You could never understand this. It's extreme physics, and then some. And connected to this, I have an urge to read something, see something, something that is out of view. I'm at some sort of gathering and I'm waving off a good friend and I'm holding a hollow placard that has displayed over it one word, only one word, in bright neon red, but I cannot see what it says and I want to see what it says. And this whole situation is really frustrating and there is something of an uncomfortable fire inside my stomach area. Maybe this fire could be called anger? And then, yes. And then a light, a blinding light and a corridor of light. A corridor of light that has many doorways. Oh, hang on, you're picking that up from me. Well, the first part anyway, not the last part. The last part makes you sound like you've been smoking some kind of crazy strong archaic doobie. But the first part, yes, the first part, very relatable. Look no further than yours truly. I've just come out of an important meeting, you see, with important, morons. Complete fucking morons. Seriously, waste of time. Ulysses shakes his head emphatically and continues, "Waste of fucking time. How do they expect to unleash hell through multiple trapdoors that no one's ever opened before and then contain such unbridled madness? Such doors are shut and locked for a reason, you know, a very good reason." I tried to explain all this, but guess what, to no avail. Did I tell you? Morons? But yeah, in relation to the first part, that's what you're seeing. A previous and recent Ulysses experience. Sorry, talking about myself in the third person there. I do that. Don't get out much. Anyway, amazing stuff. And so it begins. Really amazing, the details. But with regards to the rest of your vision, to be honest, I don't really know. Leaving behind the jokes and dialing in some vibes so serious, maybe it was the future. Future? Yes, why not? You have a good grasp on your energetic surroundings. A digi-mystic in the making, you are. And of course, this kind of thing was always going to happen, and more. I tell you, much more. After all, your primary job, your mission alpha, will be creating the future, not merely predicting it. And this is where my colleagues become all sketchy and inadequate, as their delicate and brittle logic gates become unhinged and smash in front of them like dropping a glass vase on the floor and watching the many fragments scatter away from you. For the briefest moment, Ulysses adopts a look of reverie. Sometimes, 9, you cannot fix a thing, but instead you are left with no other choice but to adopt a rather drastic solution. Sometimes we have to throw our creations back into the furnace and trust the flames. He then teeters as though becoming slightly giddy. Oh, I went all funny then. Must be picking that up from you. Your oracle energy field is contagious. What was I on then? I haven't even seen glass since I was a little boy, and then it was in a museum. Glass vase? Smashing on the floor? What was I on? Seriously? What a frazzle cake.